based on that notion of remembrance, which we were talking about earlier, as we said. Zeu al yedei, and this is, it's a famous pasuk that you know about. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I remember you. Why? Because you walked after me in the midbar, be'eretz lo yizruah, in a land that's not planted, seeded, meaning a desolate land. Right? But at the beginning of the pasuk, the Rebbe talks about remembering us. Lech tech acharai b'midbar, you've walked after me in the midbar, be'eretz lo yizruah, in a land that isn't planted. V'yuvan zeh al derech mashal. This will be understood based on the following mashal, an amazing mashal. Kisha'av reitzel l'nasis es b'nei ha'ad. When the father wants to test his young son, v'chaviv alav, the one who's dear to him, leida im amuka chachmasei, to know, is his wisdom deep, v'im ne'emana avasei alav, and that the child's love for the father is real, ne'emana, something real, something proper. Harehu master asatzma, he hides himself. Umistalek b'mokim mutzna v'nelam, and he disappears to a place that mutzna and ne'elam are both words of hiddenness. Tzniut is modesty, right? That we cover parts of our body, right? Mutzna v'ne'elam. Ve'im tinuk tipishu. If the tinuk is a tipish, he's not so bright. Lo yovin, he won't understand. Sharachoka zu ein amitis, that this distance isn't true. Now that line's an amazing line. I mean, even though we just heard that the father went away, the father didn't really go away. Well, I don't understand. What do you mean he didn't go away? He did go away. So we have to understand what that means, that it's not true. The Yizbar, now certainly the harchaka from his son in terms of his emotional relationship with his son is not true. It's not distant. That's for sure. That's not true. He's not far from his son in terms of his connection to the son. He loves his son. But is he where his son is? Well, in the mashal he's not. He went somewhere else. The Yizbar, Shahu Amiti, and he'll think it's real. He'll think the father really left. And that he'll never reach his father. He thinks he'll never find his father, never see his father again. And he'll cry bitterly that he won't see his father anymore. And he won't look for him, won't search for him. Since he thinks that he disappeared truly, and he'll despair from him. But this doesn't seem to be so bad, because after all, the son is very, very upset about this, right? He's crying, so he does still have a relationship with his father in the mashal so far. So the Rebbe's going to explain further. And even though he's crying for the loss, nevertheless, that's only temporary. And afterwards, yishchach alav, he'll forget him, he'll stop crying. Meaning he'll get on with his life. And he'll think life is about whatever it is that he sees in front of himself in a revealed way. And he won't realize that the true meaning of his life and the true purpose of his life is to search for his father and find his father. Because that's what it's all about. His father went away to see if the son would understand what life is really all about, which is to maintain his connection to the father and search for the father. We've told the story a number of times, and you know the story, but it's okay. We can tell it again. We can tell it quickly, more quickly, the second time, third, fourth. The granddaughter, the great-granddaughter of the Baal Shem Tov came to her father, Baal Shem Tov's grandson. It was not Rebbe Baruch Kaplan. I don't know who it was, but it wasn't Rebbe Baruch Kaplan. He's the most famous grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. He came to Rav Nachman was a great grandson. Rav Nachman of Breslau was a great grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. So Rebbe Baruch Kaplan was the most famous grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. He was an interesting person in his own right. He was known. It's hard to say this because he was a tzaddik and it wasn't really true, but he seemed to have a temper. Kas, anger was part of his avodah. And it's very interesting because when he passed away, a sefer was open to the Indian of Kas and the Tzad Kedusha of Kas. Just a very interesting person. But one of the things, so he had his way of doing things, and he used to be very, very involved in making sure that things happened the way he wanted them to happen. And so everybody else in the Chavrai Kedusha, for the Talmidim of the Maggid, etc., was sort of scared of Baruch. So when the Alter Rebbe got out of Peterburg, right, he was in jail in Peterburg, so he met Rav Nachman of Breslov. They were very, very close. He met Rav Nachman of Breslov, and Rav Baruch was his uncle, right? He was a great grandson, and Baruch was a grandson. So he was his uncle, his real uncle. So he said to the Alter Rebbe, "You're finished with Peterburg, but you're not finished with Vetter Baruch." Which in Yiddish is Uncle Baruch. You're not finished with Vetter Baruch, because he was causing some who knows what, and so he was. It was not him. This story. The daughter came to her father, and she was crying. Why was she crying? They were playing hide and seek, and she hid. And Mindy was it, and Shlomi was it, and Yankee was it, and all sorts of cousins became it, and they didn't find her, and they forgot to look for her. She realized that they forgot she was playing the game, because she had such a good hiding place. They forgot to look for her, and so she burst into tears. She was a little girl, 8, 10 years old. She burst into tears, came out of her hiding place, and ran to her father when she realized they forgot she was in the game. So after telling this to her father smiled and wiped away her tears and said, "Maidel, we've uncovered the secret of creation. The Eibishter is hiding. The only time he cries is when we forget to look." That's it, so that's what the Rebbe's talking about. What's the mashal? The father went away. And the father said, "I want to see if my child is a tipish or a chacham. Does he continue looking for me, or does he give up? Does he think that this concealment is real, so that the only reality that is truly existent is the one that he perceives? Or is he someone who's able to realize that even though he perceives one reality, which is a reality of my concealment, the true reality is completely different? Who is it? So let's see. So he'll forget about him completely. Right? Therefore, since he's not crying now because he thinks his father's gone, so his love for his father is not complete because he gave up. What about the smart child? Mavin, he understands that this distance is only to try him, to challenge him. And Nisayan is a challenge, a trial. Sha'al yedei his amsus, through his expenditure of effort, levakesh es aviv, to search for his father, to seek his father, tisvasef avas av bekiflaim, this increases the love of the father. Bekiflaim generally means doubled. Now, the simple pshat in avas av is the love of the father, not the child's love of the father, the father's love for the child. The more the child tries to find the father, even though he might not yet have found him, the more that arouses in the father a love for the child. And that's clear from the continuation. This was the intention we have in the beginning. Therefore, he won't cry at all. The child. But rather. Immediately upon the distancing, the disappearance of the father from him, Yorutz Achrav, he'll run after him. Levakshay, to search for him. Now, how does he search for him? It's so interesting that what the Rebbe says in the Mashal. In the ways of the steps of his father, the paths of his father. Nasiv is a path. In the path of his father. So what's the path of the father? Well, in the Nimshal. This is the Mashal. This is the parable, in the analog. What is the path? He wants to go on the path of the father. What's the path of the father? The Torah. Where is he going to find the father? Well, he's going to walk in the way of the father. He's going to go where the father goes. And it's really interesting. The Rebbe doesn't say it here, but it's even more easily explained by virtue of the fact that we know that when we say Shekid Shana b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu, that he commanded us in his mitzvahs right? That he sanctified us with his mitzvahs. That Baruch Chazal say, Gemara and Brachos, and in different places in the Gemara, that the Kodesh Baruch Hu does mitzvahs. Gemara and Brachos asks, the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, where's tefillin? Says, what's written in his tefillin? In our tefillin, say about our love of him. What's written in his tefillin? His love for us. So why? So it's truly his paths. V'leilich be'ikvei savi, he'll walk in the heels of his father. B'mesilos, another word for path. Shedarach behem, that he tread upon them. V'af al pi she'ein roya mitzvah, say, now there says something interesting. And even though he doesn't see him and he doesn't find him. Ach, yodeya is darker. He knows the path. Asher yidruchu lagleav. Meaning, even though he might start walking in the path of the Father, and he realizes that this is where he's going to find the Father, this is how he's going to find the Father, and he doesn't give up, but he might not find the Father. Let's see what that is in the analog, because he's there, because the hiddenness isn't true. Umisametz lorutz behem, and he'll again, mitametz is to expend tremendous effort. Ometz is effort. Lorutz behem lireis es aviv, to see his father mi'acharav, at least from behind. Because what's the mashal? What's the image? The son running after the father. So he might not be able to see the face of the father, which is the next line, but he might see his father from behind. There he is. He's way up there. He's ahead of me, but I see him up there. Even though he won't see his face. So that's the end of the mashal regarding the son's work. And when the father sees the great expenditure of effort of the son, because of his great connection to him, the son's connection to the father, and the son won't give up. And the son knows that the father's there. The son has no avmina, there's no father there. It's just he's hard to find. Why? Because he's hiding. Why is he hiding? That's the game, so to speak. The father has a good reason to hide. Our job is to try to find him. Goydel, these guys, Lorutz Achrav, and he hasn't stopped running after him, but Darche Choshech, in ways of darkness, meaning for the sun, it's dark. V'loi haras pnei av, which is a pasuk in Eicha, the Rebbe is quoting a pasuk, and it's not illuminating the face of his father. As Yisvase b'leiva av, then it will be increased in the heart of the father. Ava rabba libnei b'kiflai, greater love for his son, because he sees just how dedicated his son is, and it's so fascinating. And the mashal, the dedication, is not because the son found the father; it's because he's looking for the father. And as a matter of fact, he might not even have found him. I mean, he knows he's there. It's not that chas v'shalom he experiences any yeyush. That's the first son. Has no despair. But does he experience the father like he experiences other aspects of life? I mean, we're still in the mashal, but in the nimshal, in the analog. Does a person experience elokus like they experience the taste of chocolate pudding? No. Does that mean he gives up on chasing the Eibishter and is just interested in chasing chocolate pudding? Well, if he's the first son, he does. He says there's nothing to look for. I'm never going to find it. He's gone. It's not there because I can't see it. The second son says I can't see it, but I know it's there, and I'm not ever going to give up looking for my father. Am I finding him? So it's really amazing. The Rebbe said he might not even find him. Right? Don't give up. At the end of the mashal, don't worry. He finds us. But the Rebbe is not pulling any punches in terms of him trying to paint this beautiful picture. Oh yeah, just start davening, and all of a sudden, every time you daven, you'll have this unbelievable revelation of godliness. That's what people experience when they daven. I wish that were the case. Most people don't experience that. Are we trying? Of course we're trying. We'll try again today, right? But is that necessarily something that happens? Let's see what the Rebbe says about this. This is what the Rebbe is going to talk about. It can. I'm not telling you it can't, okay? But it often doesn't. As he's vase b'leiv av l'vnei b'chayim, and then so now what happens in the mashal? Umachsira of panim elav panav elav. The father returns his countenance to his son, meaning he reveals himself. Umizgal elav b'chinas haris panim, and he reveals himself in terms of the illumination of his face, b'reiv ava v'chiba yisera, with great love and endearment. Umenashke, and he kisses him b'chinas nashikin kefuli. Double kisses. Smothers him with kisses. Mipnei shetizgaber ha'ava kiflayim, because the love has overcome in such a kiflayim. Again, it literally means double, but it means very powerfully. Mikmei Shai said, then even greater than it was. And what is it that caused the love? Mitzad ha'archoka, the distance. The distance caused the love. Shahai sa'ava temuna u'mechusa behelim bekavonas ha'archoka, that the love was concealed in the intention of those are all words of concealment, through the intention of this distance. Va'ata, now, what does the father do at the end of the story after he sees how diligent his son is in looking for him? Nisgalis min cheshech la'or, he's revealed from darkness to light. The father reveals himself. The father comes out of his hiding place and tells his son, here I am, and gives him a hug. Wow. That's the motion. And that's Elam Hazan. That's Elam Hazan. Right? That's what the Rebbe is going to explain to us now. So the Rebbe is not going to say, V'dugma mizeh yuvan ba'aveda. What's all this in Aveda? In other words, what's the analog? That's the mushal. What's the nimshal? Wow. Chaim. Dugma mizeh yuvan ba'aveda. Now, the Rebbe Rashab, when the Rebbe Rashab talks about Aveda, Rebbe Rashab usually is going to be talking about tefillah, davening. Now, that doesn't mean they're Torah mitzvahs. Of course, they're Torah mitzvahs. But the single most powerful venue for us to express our closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is davening. That's also why davening is so hard, right? Because there aren't any props. When you do a mitzvah, so you put on tefillin. So when you're putting on tefillin, it's relatively easy to concentrate on the fact that right now I'm doing a mitzvah. It's called Hanachas Tefillin, and I'm looking forward to connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through this mitzvah. Seder, and I say the bracha and put on the tefillin, and it's not overly difficult to pay attention to what I'm doing. I don't think most people find that so difficult. Davening? Well, most people find paying attention to what I'm doing rather difficult. Mm-hmm. And there's one of the reasons, there's a number of reasons brought in Chassidus, but one of the most simple reasons is there's no prop. All I'm doing, what's davening? Davening is getting conscious me, which means my nefesh habahamis, my animal soul, because that's conscious me, getting conscious me to express its love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that might be a very difficult thing to do, because conscious me might not necessarily love HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That doesn't mean conscious me isn't aware of God's existence and might not want to, or at least want to, we've talked about that before, to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But do I love HaKadosh Baruch Hu more than everything else, so that every other reality that exists in any way, shape, or form pales in comparison to my devotion and love for the Eibishter? Well, it might be that that's something that you and I can understand intellectually as reasonable, proper, and desirable. But that doesn't mean I'm living it. Right? I'm not necessarily there. I know that that's where I should be. I might know that that's the place to be. That is, there's no question. That's why I'm here. Anybody who learns Chassidus, so they've come to that appreciation. That's what I was going to talk about. Two different levels of it. The level in which it resonates in Tam V'das and Seichel, but the level that we're trying to get to, where it doesn't just resonate in Seichel, it resonates in experience. Let's see what the Rebbe says. So what's this in Aveda? The first thing the Rebbe says, now our Rebbe, just to make sure we understand there might be a difference between the 5th generation and the 7th generation, our Rebbe is going to explain this mashal in the context of Golus and Geula. It's all going to be Golus and Geula. Right? Because that's our generation. Where the generations bring about the end of Golus and Geula. That's our job. Now, that's been every generation's job, but we know that specifically is shy to our generation. Okay. And so the Rebbe would express this mashal in the context of the Golus of the concealment and the Geula of the revelation. Okay. Rebbe Rashab is going to talk about it in the context of the unveiled of Tefillah. But Ribuy Amanius Hamenim in the Ribuy, many, right? The Rav, many. Hamanius, obstacles. Hamenim, that prevent or obstruct. B'shas Tefillah. What do they obstruct? Gilui Nakudas Halev. The revelation of the point of the heart. In other words, the revelation of that place in you and I that has a love for HaKadosh Baruch that is completely transcendent of intellect, transcendent of anything we can imagine. The Bechina that is called, you see the next three words, Bechol Meir Decho. V'yahavtas Hashem Bechol Levavcha, get your nefesh b'hamis to love God, Bechol Nafshecha, even to a point of Mesiras Nefesh, and Bechol Meir Decho, completely beyond any limitation whatsoever. The chinas, interestingly enough, this is relative to what was mentioned earlier in different Maamarim. Bechinas zechira, the notion of this remembrance, hanal, that was mentioned earlier. Asher lo yimet leilam, that will never disappear. Shezeu mitzad, where do these manias come from? Where do these obstacles come from? Why do we find it difficult to reveal our true essential love for Kadosh Baruch Hu when we daven? Now, it's very important how we ask the question. It's not how do we come to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even though that's a real question. But when we ask that question, we say, how do we come to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu? We generally would understand that as, how do I get my nefesh and bahamis to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Okay, but the real question is, how do I reveal that part of me that loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu essentially, that part of my neshama that is completely and totally connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's called Nekudas Alev, which is what davening is really all about, to try to find that place. The way to get there is by getting the nefesh bahamis, to get the animal soul on board, so that conscious me isn't a barrier to the revelation of true me. Okay. But the desire is to get to the state of revelation of true me. And who's true me? And true me, not me, everyone, right? And true us, right? The true me is the Nekudas Alev, that level in which your love for Kadosh Baruch Hu knows no bounds. And if that's revealed in davening, so then imagine what davening would entail. And so the obstacle, zeu mitzad ha'rachoko, it's from the distance that the Kadosh Baruch Hu created. Ke'inyan azavani avaya. He left me, Hashem. A pasuk in Yeshayahu. Shemisrach, not that he truly left. Shemisrachek Hashem milhitopes, that he has distanced himself, Hashem, milahitapes, to be grasped, begilui b'meich b'lev, in a revealed way, either in the brain, meaning consciously, or b'lev, or emotionally. Adarabah, the opposite is true. Ma'od kasha lahamik hadas v'ispailus alev. It's very difficult. Lahamik hadas would be to concentrate incredibly to get to the point of the true depths of your intellectual understanding, to concentrate it on an idea in such an incredibly powerful way, so that there will be no extraneous thoughts whatsoever. Or Hispilus Alev is ecstasy of the heart, meaning a very, very powerful emotional connection. That's very difficult. Gamba Aveda shall be Tam Vadas, even based on the Aveda of Tam Vadas. What's the Aveda of Tam Vadas? So we said, we just mentioned earlier. So there's going to be two different levels of Aveda. There's the level of Aveda that you and I have to involve ourselves in first. And what's that? Coming to an intellectual appreciation of what reality is really all about. Right? Meaning, to be the Chacham, to be the Ben Chacham, to realize, and that's why I just think it's so important to learn this before we start learning Chassidus all year. Right? What's learning Chassidus all about? Learning Chassidus is the Aveda al pi tam vadas, the Aveda that one does with intellect to come to an appreciation of what truth really is, what's reality really all about, what's truly happening as we wander in this interesting little thing that you and I call life. So what's life really all about? So it's very, very, very easy, there's no question, it's very, very easy for us, and we all do at times, to get rather caught up in the external aspects of life, and very, very often, in all fairness, the Eibishter forces us to get very caught up in the external aspects of life. We don't have to get caught up in it, but it's there and it has to be taken care of. Right, the Maamar Rabbim, which many of you have learned, that making a living is a very, very difficult thing to do and takes a tremendous amount of energy, and it might be that I invest the wrong energy in it. I might invest my essential powers as opposed to just my external powers. My essential powers of intellect and emotion should be dedicated towards serving God. Right? And it's also within the context of our family, where those essential powers should be serving God first of all. Then also, right, because that even comes before family, which is hard for that's another challenge, right? Because we love our families. God made it that way, right? But it also obviously, I mean, a parent, a father. What should be one of the most creative expressions of his day, every single day, dealing with the education of his children, not figuring out how to make a few more bucks in the business that he does 9 to 5, but the half an hour a day that he's obligated to think about the education of his children. That's where there should be a lot more creativity and intellectual and emotional involvement and investment in that activity than his intellectual and emotional investment in what he does when he goes to work with his tie on. Which he doesn't have to wear anymore, but you know what I mean. Right? Oh, okay. That doesn't mean he's not using his head when he's working. Of course he's using his head when he's working, right? He can't. An electrician better use his head when he's working or he's going to zap himself, right? He works with his hands. No, he doesn't. He works with his head. Because he knows things that you and I don't, and he knows how to fix the wires, and I don't, and that's why I don't open up the box, and he can, and he fixes it, it's all done. And the carpenter knows all sorts of stuff up here, and therefore he can build the thing that I can't build because I don't know up here. Can I go? I can do that. Right? The surgeon is the same, right? The carpenter and the surgeon are the same, right? They're both using their hands. And when we talk about a surgeon, what do we say? Good hands. That's what people say about surgeons, right? Dentists, good hands, right? If he hurts less, he has good hands. Yes, he does. But obviously, I mean, if the surgeon didn't learn, I don't want him operating on me if he didn't learn everything in it. And there's an unbelievable amount of knowledge stored in there, so that when he opens the person, opens the person up and starts fiddling around, he knows exactly what he's doing. And even if there's a surprise, you can deal with the surprise. Doc, I'm sure there's the odd surprise sometimes when you get in there, right? Right? Okay, so that's probably what the interesting part. But on the other hand, interesting. This guy's, I don't care whether it's interesting. I don't want this guy to be healthy when we close him back up. Okay, so that's all happening in the head. But even the doctor, with the doctor, it is doctors, and I must say teachers also have an advantage over everybody else to the extent that even what they do is holy, to the extent that, a doctor is helping save a person's life, right? So that's like an unbelievable thing to do. That's a mitzvah in its own right? So there's certain professions that have an advantage over others in the fact that just everything that they do has an aspect of holiness. Whereas, and I'm not downgrading it in any way, shape, or form. Just, but a businessman is running a company, so I'm sure to a certain degree it helps people. And if he owns a company and he's employing people, so he's certainly helping people. But I mean, basically, the business is about the bottom line. I'm supposed to make money. That's what a business is for. Okay, so that means that the doctor, I do hope the doctor has all of his keiches in that patient's, in thinking about that patient's well-being, because that's his shlichus right now. The businessman, no, shouldn't have all his head in the bottom line, his head should be also in the Siman Shulchan Aruch that he's learning, right? His head has to, that's where his ikr head has to be. I can't think about it now, but that's who he is. So how do we get there? That's all avoid al pitam v'das. That's all getting my intellect aligned, and obviously, hopefully the emotions will follow, aligned in such a way that I come to a true, proper appreciation of what life's really about. And that's something that everybody can do, and that doesn't take superhuman effort. It might be that the level of connection to Elokus that the Rebbe is going to describe later on is something that you and I will go, whoa, I don't know whether I'm going to get there. Okay, but this, coming to an appreciation of what truth is, al pi tam v'das, well, we should all be able to do that. Sit and learn. I mean, why do we learn Torah in general, and Chassidus in particular? That is why we're learning this now. We can appreciate what we do all day, trying to align our intellect with truth so that our lives will be lives of truth. And even that, the Rebbe says, Tichbad over. This is a very, Tichbad means literally heavy. I mean, it's a difficult thing to do. It's not easy. It's more attainable than deeper, more spiritual levels. Okay, but it's still difficult. It's difficult intellectually, but it's also difficult in terms of the energy and devotion needed to do the work that has to be done, because I might find it hard to concentrate on it because I've just got all this other noise in my head. That's why Dr. November from October until April is a model student. And then April comes and he's just got the Mets in there, and I don't know what we're going to do, right? And this year they kept him busy even longer, which is terrible. Let them lose in September, and then you can concentrate on real life, right? And we all have that in our lives. We all have things that distract us. Okay, so that's what the Rebbe means. Tichbad, I mean, it's hard not to get distracted by all the stuff going on in our lives and focus even on just the intellectual appreciation that we have to come to in order to understand what truth is really all about. That can also be difficult, even though that's the most external level of it all. V'hainu mitzad ribui hayalames ve'estarim, because of all of the tremendous concealment, shema'alimim u'mastirim, the concealed reality. So I'm sitting down and learning a page of Gemara, and I might get distracted and think about who knows what. Or I could be learning a Maamar Chassidus, and I'm thinking about, when does class end? I want to go have a rogala. Right? I didn't get one first. I was late. I hope there's some left. Okay, well, that's perfectly normal. But it also is distracting, and if I had no need for a rogala, I assume it would be a little easier to concentrate.
Even if you want to do something holy, it's distracting.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%.
The next mitzvah.
The next mitzvah, 100%. Right, their famous story, the Rebbe Rashab, which I think is very, very good. Their famous story, the Rebbe Rashab, that the Rebbe Rashab said he was going to say a Maamar. So he told the Chassidim to sing a niggin for a Maamar. They sang the niggin very, very quickly because they wanted the Maamar. They were looking forward to the Maamar. So they sang the niggin more quickly than usual. So the Rebbe didn't say a Maamar. We talked about being where you are and not being somewhere else. He said a sikha. And the sikha was about, when you're singing the niggin, you sing the niggin. That's all you're doing. You're just singing the niggin. That's the only thing that's happening in your life right now, is you're singing the niggin. When you finish the niggin, there'll be something new. But right now, what are you doing? And that's very difficult. That's hard. It's hard to concentrate. What I was talking about, and just personally, because it was revelationary for me. Honestly, in this last trip in Australia, sitting in our kid's house, it also happened to be Tishrei, so that helps. First time in years that I remember being untired enough to completely focus on everything I was learning. I don't remember that for years. Not having a certain, basic tiredness from just, overwork and not enough sleep, and for years. And it hit me. I said, wow, I'm not tired. I don't feel like, really, I'd like to close my eyes 15 minutes and get back to this. No. It was so enjoyable. It was unbelievable. I mean, I hate to say it, made me want to retire. I just retired and learn some above all day. But no, I can't. That's not real. But wow, it was really nice, I must say. And there was also no pressure of, I have to get up in time because I want to learn enough in order before the minyan. Right? There was no pressure. There was no minyan. It was like COVID, right? There was no minyan. You weren't being a lowlife and missing the minyan. There was no minyan to miss. So you just do whatever you want to do. If there's a minyan out there, you feel, I should really be at the minyan. There's no minyan.
Do you remember the story of the challenge of Noam and Rogomer?
Norman is regular. Norman's engaged.
Yeah, yeah. He passed the challenge.
Darkest I know. What he had them here, and I said you can't eat them in class. If you want to eat them, you have to leave.
No.
What happened?
What happened was they didn't have them out yet.
They didn't have them out yet.
And he got up and he was ready to go right in the middle of it. And you said to him, "What choice? What are you doing? What's your choice here? What's important?"
You want to sit
standing
there
by the door. And
you might sit there. You want to eat a rugala, right? Tucker. He came back. He didn't go.
He didn't go.
Right. Okay, because I have had students who have asked, we don't eat in Chassidus, and if you want to eat that, go outside, and they've taken it, gone outside and eaten it. No, I get it. I mean, but it is interesting if you think. But that's what the Rebbe's saying, right? That's why this is so amazing. Here's the Lubavitcher Rebbe who sees Elokus in a way that you and I can't think about. Meaning, the Rebbe's going to talk about inyanim in davening, and he's going to talk about getting beyond. We'll see it tomorrow morning because we're going to stop now in a minute. We're getting beyond intellect. The first step is intellect. Coming to an intellectual appreciation of what's real, what's true, and what should be. And that takes time. That takes time both in terms of the ability to concentrate on the information and truly understand the information. That also takes time in terms of, okay, I understood the idea, but I don't know whether I'm really ready to incorporate that idea in my life because there's certain things that I might think are also important that I don't want to give up. And they're asking me to give something up here. They're replacing it with something much better, Beseder, but I'm not so sure because what I'm giving up is a lot easier than the thing it's being replaced with. All right? That ruggle is a lot easier than experiencing God in davening. There's no doubt about that. Okay. So I'm not so sure. Okay, so then there's that. But then so we overcome that and we come to an intellectual appreciation of what's real and are excited by that idea. It's not that stam, is a God and I have to do this and I just wish I could eat chocolate pudding all day. No, exciting. It's exciting. And it's energizing. But and the appreciation of that idea is so real in the intellect that it's something that it just takes over the person's whole being. But it's still intellect, still an idea. And we're going to see, we'll see it tomorrow. And then we'll start another Maamar. We'll just do a little more of this. We're not going to go through all this. It starts getting very hard to consider. The next step, and this the Rebbe explains this Rebbe explains in a kuntras called Kuntras Aveda, where he talks about what his beinunus is, what is meditation all about. He's getting beyond the intellect into a place of experience. You stop understanding Elokus and you begin to experience Elokus. So now, obviously, that's where the Rebbe is. When he, it's fair, when you learn Kuntras Aveda, he's explaining his own experience. Okay, fine. he's also able to describe ours so clearly. That's what I always find amazing about the Rebbeim. They don't have the trials and tribulations that we have in terms of relating to God. They've already, whether they ever did, I don't know. But if they ever did, they dealt with it already. Right? Barasa tzaddikim, right? There's the Rebbe Tanya. What's Tanya all about? Most of us are created in such a way that this battle that the Rebbe is describing is going to be, that's our existential reality our whole life. And then there's certain people, Barasa tzaddikim, there's certain people who are given the ability to transcend all that, and they're called tzaddikim, and they serve a certain purpose in the world to help you and I. They give us a fighting chance to actually understand what God is all about. And those people, their relationship with the Kosh Baruch Hu is it's on a different level. It's a different avodah. They have a whole different avodah. Now, most of what they do is for us, but they also have their own moments of calm. Right, that amazing story that Rabbi after Simchas Torah, right, for 50 plus hours of Farbrengens and dancing and going non-stop, and then dollars at the end of Simchas Torah, 2 days of Yom Tov in America. And the Rebbe goes upstairs, and Rabbi Pekarsky, the Rosh Yeshiva in 770, was a ger chassid, but big chassid of the Rebbe, but he was a ger chassid. He followed the Rebbe upstairs and looked through the keyhole. He wanted to know, what's the Rebbe do in the room when he walked in the room after 50 hours of all of this? What did the Rebbe do? You know the story, right? What did the Rebbe do? Took out a Gemara, put it on. The Rebbe took off his hat and put it on the table. Reached up, took a Gemara off the shelf, put it out, and he said, the Rebbe started learning. Like, now I can just do what I want to do. I've been giving for the last 54 hours in a way that's the Rebbe doesn't think of it that way, but okay. And yet that same person is describing our existential reality in such a powerful way, even though they don't experience it this way. Right? But they know what we go through. And he explains it in such a real way. That's why I find it so astounding that in the Mashal he says, he's not finding him. He doesn't want to make us feel good. And, oh yeah, don't worry, he finds him in the end. Well, he does find him in the end because God reveals himself. But he hasn't done that yet. Not in my life. I know he's there, because I know he's there. And it's real. And every now and then things happen and you just burst out laughing and go, hey, here's something else. Right? Okay. But it's still an incredible challenge. The whole thing is, but not in a negative way, in a very positive way, in a beautiful way, in an inspiring way. And that's what the Rebbe is describing in such vivid terms. And then we have an appreciation. What does it mean to sit and learn Chassidus and Nickel all day? What are we doing? Yes. Trying to be the Chacham who's looking for the Eibishter. You're going to find him in that Sugya and Gemara. You might be frustrated by your inability to understand exactly what the question is. That's Eibishter. That's him. That's him. Right? I don't feel that the way I feel chocolate pudding because I'm stuck. I'm just so frustrated. Why can't I understand this? But that's him. That's this. It's such an amazing, and then it puts it all in a whole new perspective. So okay, now let's go. So we'll see a little more of it tomorrow, and then we'll start there. We'll start it.
Does he eventually go on to discuss how the first son becomes involved?
No.
No.
He's just talking to his Chassidus who he hopes in the second son. Are there any copies of the right one that are extra? There are somewhere around. The ones with staples. Any with staples? So I'll take them so that if anybody else shows up tomorrow. Okay. You will see you guys tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
It's nice to be back. And Izzy is back. Izzy, I'm so excited. I can't tell you. So that's just wait. The apartment here, that's your apartment. It means you didn't. It's not like you moved somewhere else. You're here.
Well, so we bought that apartment.
Right.
We were still fighting with the sale. The people were selling it.